Okay, so I'm looking back now at my old YouTube channel, and before I even did my interviews with Jordan Maxwell, which started late 2014, uh, I had posted some videos that were like cartoonish, and I was taking pictures of like old Russian mob guys and stuff, and I was putting them on I was putting them in like little videos with like Street Fighter and all this stuff, and I was just playing around. But at the same time, I was researching Jim Jones and the People's Temple and the Nazis in Jonestown. But looking back now, Jim Jones and the People's Temple is communist, and there was definitely Soviet intelligence operatives operating out of Jonestown. And at the time, I was studying a lot of work from Mike Judge, who talked a little bit about the possibility of there being a body double in Jonestown. And from that, I started looking at ears and pictures of Jim Jones, and I realized, like, wait a minute, all these pictures of Jim Jones are not the same guy. And so I started comparing the ears and the noses, and I figured out that there's a really good possibility the real Jim Jones did not die in Jonestown. And then I connected that to the assassination of Congressman Leo Ryan, with Dwyer, who was supposedly the CIA station chief in Guyana, operating out of the embassy. And I've been putting it all together for a while now. This didn't start recently. I was thinking about this a long time ago, like months and months ago, a year or two ago. How the Jim Jones People's Temple thing with like Mike and Tim Carter, of course, being Jewish, and the rich Jewish people in America founded the Soviet Union. So when people talk about like the KGB and the Soviet Union and the power of the Soviet Union, they're not really specifically talking about the people who are necessarily born and raised in Moscow or born and raised in Russia. They're talking more about the Jewish Russian people in America who invested all the money they could into creating the Soviet Union through Wall Street. So the actual real Soviet intelligence uh, strength was more in America. Like Anthony Sutton's work shows through Albert Kahn and Associates, they built the Soviet Union. So, I'm looking at it realistically. And then Stuart Swerdlow runs his expansion site. I was talking about Stuart Swerdlow in the interview. I remember I tried to call Stuart Swerdlow uh, around the time before I interviewed Jordan Maxwell. I called Stuart Swerdlow just to talk to him on the phone. I just wanted to learn more about his website, not prying into his work or investigating. Just like, hey, I'm a researcher. I just wanted to talk to other researchers. And then I remember his wife answered the phone, and she said to talk to Stuart, it's like you have to pay like this amount of money. And so I never got around to talking to him, but I brought him up in the Jordan Maxwell interview, and then all the stuff at Jonestown was on there, and then Stuart Swirl doesn't live that far away from here, and thinking about it, his grandfather helped create the Communist Party in America. His grandfather is like the founder, one of the founders of the Communist Party in America, co-founders of it, and his great grandfather, or no, his grandfather, his great grandfather or whatever, was the first president. No, his great uncle. I'm sorry, his great uncle was the first president of the Soviet Union, and that's not that far from here. And so I was checking out the expansion's website, and I was looking into. I saw Stuart Swirlo was a Knights Templar, a Templar, and then I was looking at all these Templars associated with expansions were hanging out down in Cuba, and Cuba definitely is still a communist country. And I'm not saying anything derogatory or bad about Stuart Swirlo or about Cuba. If I had the chance to go to Cuba, I'd go right now. But I was looking into the Soviet, and then as soon as I saw that, I'm like, wait a minute. So people connected to expansions are connected to the Soviet Union and Soviet intelligence. And Stuart Swirl even talks about hanging out with KGB agents in Asia. And then I see Cuba, and I'm like, wait a minute, Jim Jones was in Cuba. Jim Jones was connected to the Cuban Missile Crisis, the assassination of Kennedy, the assassination of Congressman Leo Ryan. So Jim Jones had deep Soviet connections. Okay? And what really mystified me about that is Indiana, where Jim Jones came from, is right underneath where Stuart Swerdlow lives. That's down. Jim Jones came out of Lynn, Indiana, and Indianapolis, Indiana. And he was a part of the communist movement, which eventually went to California and then went down to Guyana. And so I'm looking back now, and I'm thinking, when I went online, I was talking about, I was making phone calls and writing letters to the Communist Party. I was interested in a lot of research with Jim Jones. And also Hilltown with Marcus Wayne Chenault and all this stuff. And so Edward Washington, or David, as they call him, David Hill, founded Hilltown, which is like right next to Jonestown, like 30 miles away. Or maybe, yeah, I think it was about 30 miles, something like that. Anyhow, or no, was it? I don't know. It was by Matthew Ridge. But anyhow, so the Jonestown stuff was definitely connected to the Soviets, and so I'm like, what is going on? Like how is it that I get set up to be killed at a motel in Hollywood? Like this stuff is fucking crazy. Like I'm at my mother's house doing research on Jim Jones and the People's Temple, the assassination of Congressman Leo Ryan, and I end up at a motel in Hollywood, and people are trying to kill me, and then I end up back in Muskegon, and now, and then people start following me around with lights and stuff, and sending me threats. Then I get framed for a crime I didn't commit, and people are sitting there saying I'm a paranoid schizophrenic, and like I'm all over the internet, and there's like thousands of people who the same thing's happening to them, and they're all emailing me and calling me, and so it's like I don't, and then I'm at a disadvantage because people act like I created, like how the fuck, like I'm one person who does some interviews on the internet, and somebody tries to kill me, and then next thing you know, people are following me around with lights and shit, and then I send some girl flowers and talk about it on YouTube, and the cops show up at my house saying I tried to pull some woman out of a car I don't even know, and then I end up in jail for a year for a crime. Like if you really think about it, it's really bizarre. It's really weird. And back before I interviewed Jordan Maxwell, I was talking about Montauk on there, just talking about the Montauk Project and all that stuff. And so this is some deep stuff. This is what I think. And then I find out about the Novi spy guy who lives in Novi, Michigan, and he went to Moscow, and he just disappears, and the Moscow police won't let him go. Then the ExxonMobil gas station thing, and I'm just trying to piece it. I'm like, wait a minute. Who is involved? And then the guy from Expansion's website, the black dude Etsy, like there was some guy in Muskegon that looked just like him following me around. If it wasn't him, it was somebody who looked just like him. And with the gang stalking, they do the mimic stuff, so who knows, But I'm looking at this stuff realistically. I'm trying to put it all together. And I'm like, what about the ExxonMobil gas station? Was like Soviet intelligence, Russians involved with kidnapping some, like did they kidnap Jessica for her organs or something? Like I'm trying to realistically look at this stuff because I went all the way to a motel in California that I had been at multiple times. I got set up to be killed. All I was doing was researching some stuff that happened back in the 1970s. And I'm trying to realistically look at it. Like, what the fuck? Like, why would people go through all this trouble to lie on me in court and to do all this stuff and to make a whole fake newspaper article? Like, it's not realistic. It's just not realistic. And I feel sorry for how stupid people are because there's something really wrong going on in Muskegon. Like, this is beyond me. This is something really fucking wrong going on. Fuck.